Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. This week, Smash Z Portable for, that Linux handheld gaming computer. It's over 100% funded. But guess what? It most likely will never ship. And it's Ubuntu Adventure Time. Starring me, I'm going to tell you about the issues I encountered while upgrading from 1404 to 16.0 Nope.
That dang dirty cow can root your Android, whether you want it to or not. And in the wake of the PS3 quote-unquote other OS class action ruling, Linux is back on the PS4.
Don't reboot it, just patch. But you don't have to reboot it, but we'll have to pay for it. And we'll talk about the good and the bad things about SSL. But now Firefox is taking care about the ugly things.
I'm Vince Stone, here switching these bits, doing this wonderful Wednesday show at a place we like to call LGC Actual. Joined every Wednesday all the way from Portugal. The man
Why, hello. We're going the long way around, yes.
Yes, and all the way back to the West Coast.
From Los Angeles.
Commander on. All right, gentlemen, let's just get right into this because it's patch time. You can now enable Linux kernel live patch on your Ubuntu PC. For free? Question?
For free, quote unquote.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can use the live patch system on 3 boxes for free. But if you install it on the 4th one, yes, that's right, Shuttleworth will come to your house and kneecap you. True story. I've seen it. He's all teeth and nails, man. It's pretty nasty. But here's the thing. You can get the Ubuntu Advantage subscription. But I think that might be out of the reach for a small company because your basic desktop support starts at 100, well, maybe not, 150 USD per year per node. But that's pretty neat. Strider, tell me why this is a good thing.
It's a good thing when you have running servers and you want no downtime. And this is not really new. I mean, there has been similar technologies with Ksplice, and it has been integrated in OpenSUSE in the past few months. There has even been a song about it, which Brian Lunduk wrote. But yeah, I'm having a hard time figuring out how they can sell this as a service. But, it's canonical. They also sell their landscape service, which is basically apt-get as a service. So, it makes sense.
Why is it a snap, though? Why is it a snap? Are Canonical really that desperate to push snaps that they had to make it a snap?
No, you just better be grateful it doesn't force install Mir.
Okay, now I get that for mission-critical servers and other such use cases, live patching makes sense. Especially, when a critical flaw, like the one we're going to be talking about later on, is discovered and you need to keep that server running but get rid of that security vulnerability. Now, okay, I get it. This allows a machine to stay up and get the needed patch while also providing a degree of assurance to a company which is paying for the service, or the support, as it were. That's Red Hat's entire business model. But live patching? Really?
Hey, man, it's all the craze. And as Foxy pointed out in the chat, Strider, what do you think about this? Why do we need a utility to do it for us since it's already available in the kernel? What is this?
Yeah.
Just make it easier? Or?
Yeah, I guess that someone will figure out some way to do it with just open source tools and not having to subscribe to any of that canonical stuff. It's probably already possible. The technology has been there for quite a while.
Okay, so let's go from that to this.
Indeed, let's bank those chains. You guys know Chain, right? Well,
Alice in Chains, great love it.
Yeah, Alice in Chains, they have a couple of good songs. But we're talking about Chain itself, which is a little child company of the original Bitcoin, as it were. And they have basically open sourced their entire blockchain, conveniently named, I see what they did there, they will in the future open source everything. It will be available on GitHub at some point in the future. And this comes in the wake of a New York-based company, R3Sev, basically doing the exact same thing a couple of days prior to them announcing this. So this is good. Now, open sourcing your entire, home banking solution and what have you is just a positive thing. And if you're, again, talking about mission critical stuff, especially in a bank where it deals with money, deals with everyone's money, you kind of need it to be as secure as it possibly can. And the best way you have to do it is to have tons and tons of people looking at your source code. Now, there was one thing in this particular article from Fortune.com which kind of riled me up. They say Chain is also releasing a quote-unquote test net or test network for coders to experiment in partnership with Microsoft, which has agreed to supply cloud infrastructure with its Azure business. Microsoft? Really?
Microsoft loves open source, man. What are you talking about? It's great. Here's the little thing. I mean, they're looking at Bitcoin. They want to establish some type of blockchain system. And they kind of looked at this and they went, wait a minute, we're doing it backwards, a.k.a. wrong. Because nobody will ever trust a closed source system, ever, for blockchains. I mean, especially ones, and to quote from the article, to help banks build permissioned blockchain systems. Now, I get all conspiracy. Not like with a big C, but like with a little c with this. Because remember, kids, banks and governments loathe Bitcoins. More importantly, Kanye West. Because, I had to throw that in there. They're unable to control it. They don't like that. I mean, you can't lock it down. You can't freeze assets or anything like that. And it really looks like the banks are trying to get in. It's like, we need to find a way, because they kind of see this is where things are going in the future. Getting rid of the current system, maybe not immediately. I mean, it could be 3 days from now, not 2. And they kind of want to get in on it, but I say good luck with that. Matthew, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I wonder if they're not pulling an AMD here. I mean, crypto is hard, blockchain is hard. So, hey, let's open source. We'll get like free developers. And also, I mean, I agree that this kind of technology needs to be open source if you want to get trust from people. But also, I mean, you get free devs for this.
Absolutely.
And for once.
But here's what I want to ask you. Why would anyone want to tweet from a console?
I don't know. Maybe that's you want to read Twitter on your server on a SSH session or.
Okay,
whatever.
so this is Python. So do you have to get the Fixie module and the PBR module in order to?
I mean, there are not a lot of dependencies. So this is a Twitter client called Rainbow Stream, which runs entirely in the console. There are a few other clients out there that does that. This one looks really nice. They have lots of colors. They have different themes. I've tried it. I mean, it installs really well. Just have to run pip install Rainbow Stream, and it's there. It will ask you to authenticate with a browser window, and then it will just show you a stream of your.
Wait! Did you just say it makes you authenticate with a browser window?
Yeah. It will pop up. It will give you a link which you have to open in a window. Then it will ask Twitter to authorize the app.
Okay, so that's about as smooth as if I was running Twitter in my web browser and it opened up a virtual terminal and I had to authenticate through that. Right?
Yeah, it's a 2-step authentication because it needs Twitter to authorize the app, and since it's running in a console, it can't really do that. So it will show up like a four numbers that you have to type into the program, and then it's done.
So Pedro, on a scale of 10 to 10, does this definitely fit in to our weekly, this is neat, never going to use it category?
12, actually.
12? All right.
Yep. It's about as, well, it's really neat, but no.
No.
It's neat if you're a Python developer and you're interested in network programming and APIs and that kind of stuff. Then you should have it at the source code. That's that's a good like use case for that kind of stuff. So yeah, for developers, it's surely an interesting read.
Okay, well, coming up next, I'm going to tell you about my adventures in Ubuntu land. But first, Pedro, we need to thank the people who make the show possible.
Why, yes, we do. If you go on over to patreon.com/Linux Gamecast, you can be like those 90 lovely people who keep throwing dimes at our heads, hoping we will die, but we just refuse to. Yes, you can literally throw 5 cents at us so that you can get early access to our Left for Brads. And, well, not Trines Agains, because we've actually finished that.
We completed a Patreon goal. Whoa!
Indeed. And if you would like to get those episodes earlier and a couple of bonus episodes, which we have there, there's even a talk between Ven Jordan and Empty, debunking a debunking video from long ago, yes. And you can do all of that just by supporting us. And let's say if you want to get access to the show notes for Linux Gamecast Weekly, which is that other show that we do on Saturdays sometimes. You can do that.
Pretty good, man. I mean, what are we, like $13 away from that upcoming goal, which will unlock 2 additional streams, possibly a Tuesday and Friday stream for us to prototype new shows. You know, we can also stream all the games. You know, we don't necessarily have to be prototyping shows. Sometimes we'll just join up and talk about what's going on. We definitely want to start experimenting with taking live calls, and that's a horrible idea, but we want to try it because that's the type of people we are. We might even do a show or start working on a show covering some of the bizarre things I find on the internet because I seem to have a nose for that. But yes, check out the Left 4 Dead 2, which is our Left 4 Dead 2 multiplayer series, if you enjoy, because that is just us having a good time, having a blast. But I'd also want to remind everyone that we're giving away a copy of Guns of Vicarious.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So if you go to linuxgamecast.com, find that episode, which is just last week's episode, and share it, be it on Google+, Twitters, or Facebooks, hashtag LGC Cares, so we can search it. You'll get a chance to win it next week. But
oh boy,
why are we
looking at the show notes for this? It's about as long as my fun segment in some reviews.
glibc not defined info. I know why, because I upgraded from 1404 LTS to 1604 LTS Sunday night, and part of Monday getting the rest of the bugs smashed out of it. But before I go into this, I'm going to let Strider talk just for a little bit so you can see why software developers make horrible system administrators.
Okay, first, I have upgraded like maybe 10 systems, like from either 1404 or 1510 to 1604. So none of them had issues. So this is really
of course
something.
Not. You're Strider. Mm-hmm. Why would it?
Yeah, this is something that will happen if you have modified heavily your existing system. And this has happened to me in the past. I mean, I've had similar problems in the past, and yeah, you can expect this as soon as you start like going off-road and patching your system.
What do you mean by off-road and patching your system? Because the only patches done to this box were official from Ubuntu.
Well, if you run the normal updates, then yeah, that's not patching your system. I'm talking about installing like PPAs or like replacing the glibc or stuff like that. And if you didn't do anything to your system, then this is something that went horribly wrong that shouldn't have happened.
It went so
all.
horribly wrong. It was an very easy Google search for everything I'm about to bring up as known bugs.
Usually this kind of stuff is not really hard to fix, but not everyone knows how to do that. So this is why you see a lot of people recommending doing a clean install, which in most of the cases you don't need to. I mean, I haven't done a clean install in years, and I haven't had any problems. That said, I mean, if you want to have your system patched with newer stuff like glibc or std, C++, and you want to build yourself a Franken distro, Just one advice is just clean up before you plan to upgrade. So that way you might avoid a bit of problems. But if you don't and run into broken stuff, then be prepared to do some fix up.
Okay, well, sit back and let's talk about this because our Adventure Sunday, it started after we got the show done, which we did a show, Saturday it was delayed, so the Linux Gamecast Weekly was on Sundays, and I wanted to go crawl in a corner and just rock silently for a little while, but I decided, I'm already like, might as well just get that out of my system. I did it, and Strider thinks I have all these Moon PPAs installed, which, of course, I went through and just disabled everything, and nothing like system. We're just talking applications, and Kubuntu's smart enough to go, I can't upgrade that, so I'm not going to upgrade that. I might remove that. And I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Ran the system test, and it was like, everything's fine, Brad, go ahead, hit upgrade, which, I just did it through the command line. I didn't use the GUI thing. I was like, great. Ran that, everything completed, no show-stopping errors, nothing. I mean, at first, it kind of noticed it was like your boot partition's full. And I was like, yeah, it is. I need to go clean out some old kernels. I did then. Rebooted to a blinking, flashing screen. And I was like, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. This is Ubuntu. This is not Fedora. Fedora would just upgrade and install and work. So, looked around and I was like, okay, it's libstdc. Known issue. You can Google it. It'll come up. Ended up having, get this. Okay, I got a recovery console. I was like, this is great. And I was like, all right. So I need to get these two files. libstdc, and I think it's 540 and 540 i386 and x86-64. Unfortunately, it was Borg, so I couldn't enable networking. Yeah. Thus our adventure begins, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking around, and it was about that time that I realized that Girl Scout was 45. No. But I did realize that I got a lot of PCs in this house. They're all headless. Yeah. I was like, this is going to be fun, isn't it? I'm going to have to go find a monitor, go downstairs to Franken-NAS or Zath-NAS and plug on that. And then I remember that stupid monkey face Windows tablet I had with a full-size USB port on it. I was like, cha-ching. Saved me a lot of time because I downloaded these two files, put it on the thumb drive, mounted the thumb drive. That came remounted, read write, root file system. And fortunately, well, first you try apt. App's Borg too. It can't launch app. Dpackage worked. And after 3 or 4 minutes of trying to remember how to force install with the dpackage, I got it up and it would boot. And that was great. But, I had networking, so Ubuntu 16.04 at that point had already lost. I had X and networking. I was going to win this battle. It just didn't know it yet. But then I get that, and I try to do an apt-get, upgrade, and an app's functioning at this point, but it's just like, nope, errors. And I was like, what's going on? Oh, right, find error, highlight. I forget exactly what it was. Paste it into Google, like, yeah, you need to enable the toolchain, Ubuntu toolchain. Then I got apt working right, so I could do an apt-get install apt to sort the libstd stuff out. All right. It kind of worked. It's like, good. So I went to set up my Moon configuration, which I have 3 separate X screens running. No NVIDIA drivers. NVIDIA control panel. Nothing's there. And it's like, that's new. Sudo app remove NVIDIA 370, I think is what I was at. Derp. Reinstall, reboot. Nothing. Turns out it couldn't build the kernel module. Okay. So I ended up having to install GCC 4.9 because it was currently using 4.8. Then I removed 4.8 and it finally compiled. And I had something of a working system. Ta-da! See, people, it's super wicked easy if you know what you're doing. I mean, it was just like click, and then I had 16.04. That said, it is basically like 14.04 because I just went right back into XFCE running everything I normally run. A few little things, my old outdated version of XChat didn't work, so we're using HexChat. Not a big deal. It noped GUC View, which I use for video. Like, don't you want some cheese? And I was like, no, stupid Ubuntu, so I reinstalled that. It did fix my issue with Warhammer, so I can play online in that. We might stream some of that.
That's weird.
Yeah, trust me. I even talked to Farrell. I was like, Farrell, I'm not asking you for tech support on this one. Just morbid curiosity. And they're like, well, we don't know either, man.
You might be able to play Borderlands as well.
Well, we've already been streaming Borderlands. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you had some crashes at some points.
That had to do with an Xbox controller being plugged
Yeah.
into the system. That had nothing to do with 1404
Yeah, but
LTS.
Also the
However, if you're thinking about doing this, all this will be in the show notes, so hopefully it will show up when you Google and have these types of problems. But that was the adventure. I don't like Ubuntu in general. I started with Red Hat and worked my way up through all the Fedoras, and that's what I run everywhere else. It's just the LTS support. That Strider hates LTS support. He thinks it's horrible that you should be running the latest and greatest at any given time. But my 1604 review is it works. I'm on the system D's now. It still has a couple of issues every now and then with booting because it doesn't like my YOLO RAID config, but that's just something I would sort out, and I'm not going to blame that on Ubuntu. Pedro, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, I would blame that on Ubuntu, especially when I moved to Ubuntu Mate on this box. I had to wait for it to time out during the first boot after installing the system so I could install MDADM and re-scan and automatically assemble the YOLO RAID, which was my home partition, so it would actually detect it. But yeah, I've had so many experiences just upgrading distros without a clean install. The only distro so far that I've had any success with has actually been on my work laptop, which is always at the office, and I just fed up when there's a new version of Fedora, and it works. And everything works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Send us some feedback if you have experienced something similar, or maybe everything just worked for you and your name's Machu. But
Rolling releases don't count, Frezzo.
right, and listen, like I'm showing, if you're listening for audio, I'm just showing a couple of the easy things I've found on the way to a Linux exploit that we should all run around and panic, right? Sky's falling.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty serious. So there's, I won't say new because this has been around for a long time, but an exploit that is in the Linux kernel, and it's been around for a while, for
11 years.
11 years, and there are chances that if you run a Linux box, it's vulnerable right now. This includes your Android phones as well, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So what is this? This is something related to the copy on write functionality, and it will, like there's a race condition happening, and it will allow some malicious code to exploit the copy on write functionality.
There's actually a sample exploit that you can run right now if you look for it. And it is a race condition between checking whether or not you have write permissions to a given file, and if you can beat the little dirty hack that Linus Torvalds introduced in 2007. He noticed this, and he tried to sort of create a workaround for it, but it didn't work all the time, so it was an issue, and some people actually found a way to actively replicate it and use it as an exploit, but it's been fixed now. Finally.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard to exploit in the past, but now there have been improvements in the latest kernels that made this easier to exploit. So
well, I mean,
it's
yeah,
a good
gaining
thing
the
that-
escalated privileges on this, and it was really only useful, I mean, if you could, execute code on that
Yeah.
system, which, web servers, hello. That's definitely a thing, but I kind of want to know, is this going to affect, my router, my thermostat, my refrigerator? Trust me, if I ever buy an internet-connected refrigerator, just me, I mean, something's horribly wrong.
Hack it.
So,
the
so no,
biggest
probably
thing
not
here
because
is
it's kind of
the
hard.
biggest thing
to
here is not so
exploit
much
this.
appliances as it is, your little Android device that you happen to have laying around. Because, yes, the kernels in, well, every single version of Android up until the latest security patch for Android 7, are vulnerable. And what does that do? Well, for one, it will let you unlock and root your device. You can just run the, again, there have been already exploits that have been shared all over the interwebs. You can Google for those or check the show notes. There's a couple of links in this article. And you can use the Dirty Cow exploit to root your Android phone. But this is a problem because what if, say, you just installed something that came from the Play Store?
I just like that you run this by it's a ./moo. I mean, moo.
Yeah. And you could just, so let's say you downloaded an app that you didn't really know from the Play Store, and it turned out to be malicious, and it included this particular exploit, and you were basically handing out root permissions to whoever created that app. That's bad. And especially when you consider the prominence and proliferation of malicious apps in Android. Not so much on the Play Store because Google kind of keeps that under control. It's all those APKs that people like to install on their phones without knowing where they come from.
Well, you're talking definitely about the bad side, but I think the upside to this is basically all Android devices are now rootable, and for people like me who doesn't have a stock ROM on any tablet or mobile in the house, it's like, oh, this is great. That's a bit of a silver lining to the interrupting cow. But especially with mobiles, services like Verizon's and whatnot, Telefono or whoever, and they've been horrible about pushing out security updates. They're like, but we're that tired. It'll be too difficult. It might break something, so we need to wait 13 months. Knowing that, that phone that you just bought on, contract is this weird thing they do in the States, that somebody can immediately go clunk, change the network on that. We're going to see how quickly they can get those patches out when it's in their best interest.
Yeah, and this is with those servers, if you get a Linux server or router, it's kind of hard to exploit that vulnerability remotely. But as long as you authorize someone to run code locally, that's where the problem begins. So this includes Android phones, but also on your Linux desktop, if you install like some sketchy application.
Don't do that, kids, ever.
That could also include the.
Ooh, couldn't this get really fun with Chromebooks?
Oh, it could. I mean,
this is going to root so many Chromebooks.
I'm not sure because Chromebooks, they run. Well, Chrome apps are sandbox, so I'm not sure they could exploit the bug. But they might. I mean, it's also a possibility. So if you have some kind of Linux box, then check for updates. This is something you don't want to be like laying around and having your device vulnerable, whether it is your desktop or server or your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I just want to get back to Truggy and chat. And he says, what you need to do is install CM Nightlies like I do. So about every 3 weeks, you just put the latest one in, scream YOLO, and come back in 5 minutes and see if you still have a working device. Firefox is getting serious, right?
Yep. Since we're on security, we might as well address the fact that, Mozilla, that's a really terrible background color. In any case, they have starting to distrust the malicious quote-unquote certificate authorities. Now, there are a couple of certificate authorities that have been known to, let's say, provide SSL certificates for known malware distributors. Those were WoSign and StartCom. Those are now blacklisted in Firefox. Thank you. Good on you, Mozilla. Of course, in the age of Let's Encrypt, there's absolutely no excuse to allow these kinds of certificate authorities to keep on pulling crap like this.
No, they absolutely said. As far as I got in the article, I was like, yes. I was like, why are you doing this? That seems a bit extreme. And they're like, yeah, well, a couple of these authorities were rolling back certification, backdating their certs, so they didn't have to use stronger encryption. I was like, yeah, nuke these people from orbit. Then I was like, hey, Googs, do that too. Then maybe we can change this around. Strider, is this a good thing, or is this just Mozilla bullying people for no good reason?
No, this is really great. I mean, there's, as Pedro said, there is no reason to accept that now that Let's Encrypt is a thing. And though they had some really sketchy practices, so, and I'm just waiting for this to happen also in Chrome and Safari and Edge. Like, if this happens in every browser, then yeah, I mean, those certificates, those CAs, there will be like, either they will fix their stuff, or they will just disappear.
So yeah, work credits into Foxfire. Not a huge. I mean, the browser needs a little work, but you're doing the flying spaghetti monsters work on stuff like this, and you didn't have.
They're actually working on it now for once.
Yeah. Competition. It's crazy how that works. Smash Z, the handheld gaming PC we'll probably never see. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they had a Kickstarter that was funded last week. We talked about it on our gaming show, Linux Gamecast Weekly. They had an entry price at $2.99. I forget what exactly was their Kickstarter goal that they pulled off. It was like 300,000.
350?
Yeah, and their original the original Kickstarter, which they closed, was 900,000 euros.
Yep.
Which I originally said, maybe if they're really good, really lean, really tight, they'll get the Smash Z out and by the skin of their teeth organs for 900,000 euros. But 300,000, there's no way. They can't do that. That's not going to happen. P.T. Barnum, full in his money. Soon separated. But someone over on the Reddits, what was it, RPC Gaming, did a bit more digging. You know, this was originally called the Steam Boy. We've been covering this since it was called the Steam Boy. And the current campaign, 250,000, which they got 300,000 of. But they're also behind the ClickArm, a clone of Google's Project Aura. And then they ended up having to refund everyone after they got sued by ARM. Then they did another one. What was it called? Puzzle Phone.
That's the
has
thing.
not
They actually
shipped yet. And in 2011, they managed to, oh, well, cool, when they made iPad knockoffs. That's brilliant. So that's the background of the people behind the Smash Z, which even they were showing the benchmarks because it's like, it's going to run Linux. It's running all the Linux. And they get closer. You know, the first Kickstarter, they didn't have a prototype. And so they're like, okay, we're going to take that down. Now they have something in poorly 3D printed piece of kit. And they're like, it's running Windows 10 and it's really slow. What were you saying, Pedro?
One of the biggest things is that they didn't issue refunds on the Puzzle Phone, which was the Google Project Aura thing. They're outright refusing to give people refunds to the ones who backed their project, the ones who wanted to see it come to life. So if that doesn't, kick up a stinker when it comes to this particular Kickstarter, I wonder what does.
Well, here's the thing, man. For the better part of coming up on year 2, I've been back here screaming. I was like, these guys are sketchy. Don't trust this. And the entire time, Strider's been in my ear. Matthew's been like, no, they're fine. I trust them. But somebody else posts something. He's like, oh, look at this. Now I don't trust them.
At first, I didn't know about all their past activities. And I just knew that this was a project that was very unrealistic. And now, I mean, I cannot understand because it's basically a scam. It's something a project that looks great on the paper, but then you mentioned this. They have no prototype. They have no way to prove that this is going to be shipped. And now that I know that not only they have been they had to change their name, Valve asked them to change their name, but they've also been sued by ARM and Apple. I mean, what hell? They will not. I don't expect them to ship anything at this point.
Well, you know what is shipping though?
PS4s?
Oh yeah.
And
PS4, yeah.
PS4s, right now, if you buy a PS4, you can actually get you can get one with the 4.1 firmware. Why is that
what
relevant?
Are you saying? You buy a PS4, don't plug it into the internet, right?
You don't do it right away anyway. And because if it comes with the 401 firmware, there is now an exploit that will let you run Linux on your PS4. You may remember we've already covered this either here or on Linux Gamecast Weekly. We've seen that the PS4 can run Linux. Of course, the original version was done with a really old firmware. Yeah. And these guys, they're from a Chinese company called Chaitin. And they're a IT security firm. And there's probably a reason this video and their presentation only surfaced after Sony had released the firmware patch 4.05.
Why do you think that is?
Because they probably revealed the necessary exploit to Sony on how to do this. And Sony, well, I think we all know how Sony feels about Linux. They promised that you could run it on the PS3, and then they took it away, and then they got sued.
Well, I kind of assume this one kind of went down as like, yeah, we can get Linux up and running on this thing, and we'll tell you how we did it if maybe help us out a little bit.
They're an IT security firm, of course. Look, you got a bounty on this, because if you don't, we're just going to release it. And Sony's like, money, shut up.
Right. It's like, you got a bounty on this? No, well, you got one now. All right, Matthew, you running out and buying a PS4 right now? Nope, you're still here. All right, what's up?
No. I guess it would be probably better if Sony just allowed people to run Linux. I mean,
they can't, because that was the issue that started with the PSP. Custom firmware. The moment people can install a different bit of firmware on the box that isn't Sony's mandated one, then you're looking at piracy. And Sony has been, they supported SOPA. SOPA, remember that? Sony supported it.
No, but what if the stock firmware can run Linux without any modification? Then
again, that's what happened with the PS3. There were people who were using the Linux to basically get access to the entire system and run arbitrary code on the PS3 firmware.
Well, I mean, you can't blame Linux for this because the PlayStation runs modified BSD.
Until people figure out how to, hack BSD to give them or Sony's modified version of BSD to give them the same free reign that a full-on Linux distro would over the system.
I don't know, man. I mean, every time I hear people screaming, but piracy, I just think about politicians trying to shut down something useful by going, think of the children. It's just a complete BS excuse that you're not really dealing with anything tangible here. It's not like everyone is going to go out and pirate anything. Linux has nothing to do with piracy on this. It's being able to use the hardware that you purchased for whatever you want to do. And Sony's like, oh, no.
If you agree to the Sony end user license agreement, that PS4 is not yours. You leased it from Sony. It's theirs.
Oh man, it's just definitely a thing. It's cool. Maybe something could come of it. I don't know. PS4 is, when it was released, was really old, outdated laptop hardware. Sorry, console brothers. And now I really don't know what I'd do. It might make a good Plex box? Question mark. But do we have a couple of slices of pie for the beautiful people this week?
Indeed.
Yeah. And the first one is the one you'll have to use if you want to. Well, it's step one if you want to build yourself a Batmobile.
Okay.
And this is like turning on your car with the Amazon Echo. So basically you can speak and it will just turn on a car. So it doesn't drive yet. Like it won't have all the self-driving features, but that's just step one. So basically what you need is a Raspberry Pi Zero, an Amazon Echo, a remote car starter, and a bunch of other electronics components. And then, you set that everything together, and there you have it. You just say, Alexa, turn on my car, and it will turn on. Not sure it's that useful, but it's kind of neat.
Yeah, man, because if I spot one of these in somebody's house, because, especially the Alexa has really good beaming, I can scream through a pane of glass and be like, Alexa, cut on my car, and walk over to the car, get it, and drive off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest issues nowadays, especially, with all the Internet of Things being used as a botnet to DDoS the entire internet, as has been happening for the past couple of days. This is probably not a good idea, unless you want your car to be part of said botnet.
I don't know. I could just think of a situation like, if I had a flatmate and I was ticked off at him, like, okay,
Yeah, I mean,
A word, cut on whoever's car and just let it run overnight so he's out of petrol in the morning.
you could mess with people like, if you say like okay Google like on a show or anything, this will
Linux Gamecast Weekly apologizes on behalf of Mathieu Commandon for saying that and activating all of your devices.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, you can say okay Google, but what if you can say
Ladies and
Alexa,
gentlemen,
turn on
Matthew
my
Commando's
car?
home address is as follows.
It's the same thing. So that would be kind of neat. I mean,
Yeah, it's
Matthew
definitely a cool
Commando's car.
project. This is definitely stuff that I would
Yeah.
do until the other part of my brain's like, don't do that. I was like, yeah. Looks fun, but it's all in the name.
It's only the name, and now we can run Fedora 25 on the Raspberry Pi out of the box. It basically doesn't need anything special. So, unlike the past version of the Fedora Raspberry Pi, which was named by Jordan and was called Pidora, this one is just Fedora 5 beta. It will run on your device, and yeah, you can try it out.
Yeah, some people don't know that story. Our co-host on Saturdays, Mastas Fang, was responsible for naming the Fedora Raspberry Pi distribution. So what makes this one better? I mean, does it not say disparaging remarks about my mother? I mean,
It will work like vanilla Fedora 25. You can install like the workstation image. Just plug in, push that on your
Pedro,
SD card.
does this sentence make you, if you want to use it as a workstation, doesn't that just make you go, what?
Why? It's a Raspberry Pi, man. Come on.
Well,
Okay, let me tell you. I mean, if you make somebody a Raspberry Pi workstation and you make them use it, that's, and you're an employee, your boss doesn't like you, okay?
They have a broad definition of workstation because they have this workstation image of Fedora. So that's
I mean, it's Fedora. Raspbian probably has the most support when it comes to software on the Raspberry Pi, but Fedora as a Linux distro, even a desktop Linux distro, always has been the most. It gets out of your way, is what I'm trying to say. It's those distros like Ubuntu and sometimes even Debian to a degree. They'll play it safe and ask, "Are you sure you want to shoot yourself in the foot?" Well, Fedora, on the other hand, it sees you trying to shoot yourself in the foot, it steps aside and hands you a minigun.
Fedora
and says,
walks in, kicks down the door, and hands the gun to you. He's like, come on.
Yeah, it hands you a minigun and says, "Don't miss." So yeah, no, Fedora. It's probably still the distribution I would use.
I mean, that should be your message of the day when you drop to TTY and Fedora is like, run as root. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Just teases you. So, we love it when people talk back to us, give us a little bit of feedback. And actually, we only got just a little bit of feedback this week, but how can the lovely people get a hold of us?
They can always leave us a comment on the YouTubes, on linuxgamecast.com. If you go to the specific page where the show will be posted, you can leave us a comment there. You can also hit the contact button.
A good way to make sure that we get back to you. LinuxGamecast.com. Click on the contact button. Select the proper show. There's two. There's Linux Gamecast Weekly and Linux Weekly Daily W. Well, DW. LWDW. Give us a name. Give us an email. Maybe a subject. Your message. Do some captchas. Prove you're smarter than that bot. Scream back in our direction. That way we can all get a copy of it and we can make sure that everyone sees it. But
Indeed.
one
So,
last little
the one bit of feedback came from Mossy Cameron, of all people. Yes, and he says, "Why are you saying Powerade chip is a RISC-V? It's clearly Powerade, not point not."
Now, this was about last week's episode when they had the we were talking about the open source $4,000 Power 8 Kickstarter project, right?
The motherboard, and I was guilty of calling Power 8 Risk 5 and Risk V and what have yous. Maybe because Power 8 and Power 7 before it and Power PC before all of them were RISC-based instruction set architectures. Maybe. Or, maybe that Risk 5 is the latest of the pure RISC instruction set processors, and the Power 8 is basically Intel's version of that.
I don't know, man. I thought the latest incarnation of
IBM's not
Power
IBM.
8
yeah.
was based on weasels, right?
I mean, it's still a risk. I mean, I don't know if it's risk 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. I mean, it's risk. It's a risk instruction set. It's not like the Intel stuff. So yeah, I mean, is it 5? I don't know, but it's
So the,
basically the same.
the moral, the important thing to take away from that is that Pedro was wrong.
Yes. Painfully. I was actually wrong when I said Intel earlier. It's IBM, not Intel.
Yeah, it's IBM, Risk, and yeah, call it whatever you want.
Who
It's
cares? They're both
Power 8.
blue, but that's going to do it for this week's Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. We shall return. Pedro and I will be back Saturday around 9:30 Eastern Time. Punch that into the Googs. Figure out how it works in your time zone. And we're just going to talk about gaming then. We got some fun stuff coming up this week, and we'll be announcing the winner of Guns of Icarus. It's going to be brilliant. I've been Vince Stone. You can always find me at Vince Stone on the Twitter nets, plus Vince Stone on the G pluses.
And you can find me not adding extra I's where they don't exist. Aluminium, anyone? On Twitter at unaccounted4 or on Google plus Pedro Mateos.
And you can find me on Twitter at Strikor or on Google plus Mathieu Commandant.
Okay, that's going to do it. Thanks everyone for watching, and thanks to all of our Patreons who make this show possible. Hashtag LGC cares. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.